For more this morning, CBS News space consultant Bill Harwood joins us from the Kennedy Space Center. Bill, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning.
If I were to walk through the halls of the Kennedy Space Center right now, what would the mood be like there?
You know, that's an interesting question. I think that the team is focused on the launch, obviously. Obviously, launching a space shuttle is a dangerous proposition. They're all aware of that. And, of course, this is the last launch. They want it to go out on a high note. They want to do a good job. But at the same time, I think, as the launch director said a few days ago, the mood's getting pretty somber. Everybody knows this really is the end. You know, and after 30 years of operations with the space shuttle, that's quite a moment. A lot of jobs are on the line, and more than that, America's manned spaceflight capability is coming to an end. Without the shuttle, of course, the Americans are going to have to rely on the Russians for transportation to the station. All of those things are playing into this. And I think the mood is one of pride in what they've done for the past 30 years, and a lot of sadness that it's coming to an end.
Bill, you mentioned jobs. 6,700 people work with the space shuttle. When this last shuttle lands, the Atlantis, when it comes in, where do those jobs go?
They disappear. You know, back in 2004, when President Bush announced plans to retire the shuttle at the end of 2010, and it's moved into 2011 by now, everybody knew this day was coming. Back in 2006, 16,000 people worked on the space shuttle program. That's now been whittled down, like you say, to around 6,000. And after the shuttle lands, they're going to cut that number in half. And then within the next several months after that, there'll be additional rounds of layoffs. I mean, you know, a year from now, we're talking about a few hundred people that are going to be here finishing up a few loose ends on the shuttle program. It's going to be over. Remember that one of the reasons they've decided to kill the shuttle is to save money. And in the case of the space shuttle, it's not the hardware. It's the cost of that marching army of technicians and engineers that it takes to maintain it. So on the one hand, you have people that are wanting to save money. To do that, you have to lay off people, and that's the other side of the coin, and there's no way around that, and everybody involved in the program knew that back in 2004 when President Bush made that initial decision.
But
so
these are people
this is one of those that everybody saw it. I'm sorry?
These are people with a specialized skill set, Bill. These are people that just can't work anywhere. So what kind of jobs can we see them transitioning to?
Well, you know, the contractor, United Space Alliance, Boeing, those companies that employ these people have been having job fairs. They've been trying to retrain people who want to move laterally in the companies as well as get jobs elsewhere. There are aircraft companies that are hiring people, but the bottom line is there aren't that many jobs out there, and a lot of folks are having to change careers.
First moonwalker
that's obviously a gut-wrenching thing.
Right. First moonwalker Neil Armstrong, first American in orbit John Glenn, Mission Control founder Chris Kraft. All of these people and many others pushing for a last-minute decision to not end the shuttle program. What's the concern?
It's a lot of things. I think number one, the old-timers in the space program and the folks who have followed NASA for years are very concerned that they're ending the space shuttle before there's a replacement available to take its place. You know, over the next 4 to 5 years, NASA is not going to have any way to get U.S. astronauts to and from the International Space Station. They're going to have to rely on rides aboard Russian Soyuz spacecraft at $60 million a seat. There are a lot of folks in the U.S. program that are really uncomfortable with that. On top of that, the politics of letting another country do the heavy work here for us, I think there's a big concern about a loss of redundancy. If you think about it, without the space shuttle around, the only rocket flying will be the Russian Soyuz to and from the station. If the Russians run into a problem, all of a sudden you've got no way to get up and down, and that $100 billion investment in the space station would be at risk. All of those things are factors here that the folks who don't want to see this gap worry about. But I think that train's left the station. I don't think there's anything that can be done about that at this point from a budget standpoint, and NASA's just going to have to live with it.
Well, let's talk about the mission here. Atlantis going up with 4 astronauts. That's an unusually small crew. Why?
It really is. You know, if you think about it, going back to the first post-Columbia mission, NASA's tried to always have a second shuttle ready to go in case the astronauts ran into a problem and couldn't safely re-enter. In other words, a Columbia-type problem. In this case, Atlantis has the final external tank and the final set of boosters. There is no second shuttle to go get them. So the reason they cleared this flight to proceed is they came up with the plan that these 4 astronauts can simply rotate home aboard the Russian Soyuz spacecraft that are always docked to the station if Atlantis has that kind of a problem. If they launched it with 6 or 7 astronauts, it could take a year and a half or longer to get everybody back. As it is, with just 4 people on board, it's going to take almost a full year to get all 4 of the astronauts back if they became stranded on the station. NASA thinks that's a low probability threat, but they think they've got the bases covered just in case.
And finally, Bill, as you look out the window there right beside you and you look at Atlantis sitting on the launch pad, this is this shuttle's final flight and the end of an American legacy. What are the thoughts that are going through your head this morning?
You know, that's a tough question. This will be my 129th flight. I missed a few in the very beginning. They're all different, and I think it's just knowing that that iconic spacecraft is not going to launch again. I'm never going to see it happen again. I've got all of those emotions. I mean, on the one hand, I think it's right to retire the shuttle. You know, it was designed in the 70s. It's time to move to something else. But having said that, we're all going to miss it when it's gone. The majesty of the shuttle taking off, the fire and the thunder, all that you get with this huge spacecraft. We're not going to see that again for many, many years, and I'm going to miss it for one.
It's a bittersweet moment, and we'll all be watching it. CBS News space consultant Bill Harwood at the Kennedy Space Center this morning. Bill, thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.